So, what happens when your ordinary, predictable life gets completely turned upside down by an impossible request? In today's explainer, we're breaking down a short but really powerful story about exactly that. It's about a humble shepherd, a message from the heavens, and this huge choice that forces him to weigh his everyday duties against a call to faith. This is really the core question of the whole story. And it's not just about a physical journey, it's about what goes on inside someone's head. What actually convinces a person to leave behind the real, tangible world they know for a future they're just asked to believe in? Let's dive in and break it down. So, the story answers that question by setting up this incredible contrast right from the get go. It doesn't start in just one world, but two. You've got the mythic and the humble, and they collide almost immediately. So check this out. The story doesn't even start with our main character. Nope, it starts right here with this ancient prophecy. And that's totally on purpose. It's a way to frame everything that's about to happen in this grand divine context. Before we even meet anybody, we're told that the stakes are cosmic. And then, bam, from that huge cosmic scale, the story just pivots and zooms right in on something super personal. We meet Simon. He's a shepherd, just hanging out in a peaceful meadow. This sharp contrast is really the anchor for the whole story. It grounds this epic prophecy in a normal, relatable life, which makes that divine interruption feel so much more impactful. And this is the moment. This is where those two worlds we've seen, the divine and the everything, finally collide. It's the story's big inciting incident, the exact moment where that prophecy from the heavens comes crashing right into Simon's quiet little field. The message Simon gets is it's crystal clear. There's no riddle here, no ambiguity. The messenger, Rufus, says who he is, where he's from, and gives a command that is direct and absolutely world-altering. This is not a suggestion, it's a call to action you just can't ignore. Now, Simon's reaction here is what's so fascinating. He doesn't question if the messenger is real or if the message is true. Nope, he immediately accepts this new divine reality. His problem is completely practical. How can I possibly leave my sheep, my parents? It's such a human response, and it grounds this supernatural event in very real-world problems. And that lands us right at the heart of the story's conflict. It's a classic, totally powerful struggle between the duties you can see and touch and the destiny you're being called to. You can really see Simon's internal struggle laid out right here. On one side, you've got his tangible, earthly duties, the sheep and the family that pretty much define his whole life. And on the other side, an intangible, heavenly call, a journey to some faraway city for a reason he has to just take on faith. It's the concrete versus the abstract. This is the question Simon is wrestling with, and it's what makes his problem so compelling. It's the known versus the unknown, right? The practical versus the profound. And it's a choice that means he has to let go of one to even have a chance at grabbing the other. So, how in the world do you resolve a conflict like this? Well, the story's turning point doesn't come from some logical, clever solution. It comes from something else entirely, a leap of faith. And there it is. That's the resolution. Simon doesn't find a practical way to solve his problem. Instead, he just transcends it. He decides to surrender his worldly worries and put his trust in a higher power to take care of the duties he knows he has to leave behind. So, this is a really crucial point. How this story defines faith. It's not just about passively believing something. It's an active choice. It's the decision to trust in a divine plan even when it goes against your personal fears and your real-world duties. And this act of trust is what unlocks the next part of his journey. Okay, so once he's sorted things out in his own head, Simon takes action. He goes to his parents, and he frames his decision not as something he wants, but as a divine mandate. Notice he's not asking for permission here. He's telling them what his new purpose is. And this is so important. His parents don't become an obstacle. They don't fight him. Instead, they give him their blessing and they actually echo his own act of faith, trusting in that same divine protection. This removes that final emotional barrier and it gives Simon the freedom to completely commit to his journey. And that brings us to the final part of our analysis, the journey itself. The decision's been made, the blessing has been given, and now Simon takes his first steps on a new path, both literally and spiritually. So as Simon walks away from everything he's ever known, a song starts. And the lyrics, they aren't just background music.
They're basically a summary of everything that just happened. They spell out the whole purpose of the journey and the main thing he has to overcome: fear.
This line is repeated over and over in the story, and that's our big clue that this is the absolute core message. It admits the road ahead is going to be tough, the road is long, but it offers the solution. Just keep moving forward with faith, and you're not going to be alone. The simplicity of these lines is what makes them so powerful. They're just a gut punch reminder of the very real sacrifice he's making. This isn't some fun adventure. It's a conscious choice to leave behind everything and everyone he loves, and that really highlights the true cost of his faith.
And finally, the song leaves us with the three virtues that are going to sustain Simon on this long road. Faith is the engine that gets him started. Hope is the fuel that'll keep him going when things get tough. And love, that's the compass that will guide his way. It's just a perfect poetic summary of the story's values.
And so the story leaves us with this really powerful question. It's inviting us to look beyond this one shepherd's tale and think about the leaps of faith in our own lives. What are the modern day calls to action that we face? What responsibilities hold us back? And what would it take for us to step forward, trusting in the journey ahead? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.